So, last one for ethics then. We have euthanasia. Don't forget, do not forget in your exam you could get two types of questions. You could get one that's specifically on euthanasia, so it might say sanctity of life is no longer relevant, the focus should be on quality of life, discuss. You would still bring in natural law and situation ethics, or you might get a question on natural law or situation ethics, or even both of them, that says something like natural law is better than situation ethics when dealing with moral issues, moral dilemmas. The moral issues and the moral dilemmas are euthanasia. Don't suddenly think, oh, I think I'm going to talk genetic engineering because I watched a program last night on cloning. No, it has to be euthanasia. So, top first box is for Joseph Fletcher. Now, you don't have to write the whole quote down, but it's a fairly shocking statement to make, which you can discuss in your essay if you wish. The statement is this: people with children with Down syndrome have no reason to feel guilty about putting a Down syndrome baby away, whether it's put away in the sense of hidden in a sanatorium or in a more responsible, lethal sense. It is sad, yes, dreadful, but carries no guilt. True guilt arises only from an offence against a person, and a Downs is not a person. We will see at the end of this PowerPoint Fletcher's 12 things that you need in order to be classified as a person. And because someone with Down syndrome does not meet all of those 12 or all of those 12 sufficiently, they are not a person and therefore can be given a lethal injection. So in an exam you can use this as a stimulus in order to discuss further. You can explore it, you can look at the different views. The whole point of essays is to evaluate. If this doesn't stir something, whether it's positive or negative towards it, it should do. Alright, moving into the box underneath. The box underneath is looks messy, because there's loads of parts to the same box, but it's quite simple when you see the slide. So, you have the top long thin part of the box for the top 2 bullet points. The euthanasia is from the Greek EU, thanatos, meaning easy death. The bullet point underneath it is an intentional premature ending of another person's life. That goes in the long thin part of the box. You've then got the 4 sections underneath. One for voluntary, one for non-voluntary, one for active, one for passive. It's about keeping them separate so you remember that there's different types and different approaches. So, voluntary is when you say you want to die. You volunteer. Non-voluntary is if you're in a PVS, a persistent vegetative state, a coma. You cannot volunteer, therefore it's non-voluntary. Active, which is illegal in this country, is when you give a lethal dose to deliberately kill someone. Passive euthanasia or non-treatment decision. So non-treatment meaning you don't get treatment, such as life support or chemotherapy. That is legal in the UK and it's known as passive euthanasia. Because you know if you're terminal for cancer or even stage 3 cancer, for example, if you don't have chemotherapy, the chances are it will then turn into stage 4. So you are withholding taking medication, and that is passive euthanasia because you know essentially you are not taking what it is that you need.
So the box voluntary, non-voluntary, passive and active?
Yep, lovely. Or you can go across, doesn't really matter as long as, yeah. Please do not spend all of your essay going over these. This is just so that you understand them when you mention them in passing. If you get really bogged down with voluntary versus non-voluntary, etc., unless the question asks it, of course, very GCSE, you have to be so careful with euthanasia that you don't revert back to a GCSE style answer. This is very GCSE territory. It is simply there so that you know the difference between them and know the difference between which is legal and which is not legal. Please don't forget to summarise as best as you can because we have to get this covered in this lesson. Box underneath then is split into again 3. The first box is for the James Rachel's point. James Rachel's argues that passive euthanasia is actually worse as it's cruel and the process of dying may be long and drawn out. I think that this is an excellent point. I think James Rachel's here really, for me, does sum up passive euthanasia. What passive euthanasia supports or allows is for people to, for example, Tony Nicholson, to stop eating. You're withdrawing food, or not having chemotherapy, or turning off life support machine. Yet the process of dying might be an awful lot more drawn out. It took days for Tony Nicholson to die when he stopped eating. That's nicer than just giving someone a lethal injection. How is active so wrong when actually it's the kindest thing to do to someone? We do it to animals, yet we won't do it for humans, yet we'll let someone starve themselves to death because that's a better alternative. It just doesn't quite make sense, and that's what James Rachel's is arguing.